Hey guys, how's it going? My name's Jonas, and for the past 6 months, I've been working on my dream action adventure RPG. But before we get to where I'm at right now, let's rewind 6 months ago when I just started making the game. Sorry, did I say 6 months ago? I mean a whole entire year. So about a year ago, I started working on a platformer game called Gym Seekers. Now this game might look completely trash, that might be what you're thinking, but I was very proud of this game, as it was one of the first games where I made the art by myself. I made my own unique idea, and I actually finished it to be quite a nice 15 minutes of gameplay. Now, this game was what started me to want to make my dream RPG, and that's when I get started. So let me talk to you about how I got started making this game, and how I went from the ups and downs, and what actually started the idea of making this game, and what it is exactly. So Cure Legends is an action adventure RPG where you go on a quest to slay all the demons basically, and you kind of have to unlock the abilities of the dragon descended onto you. That is basically some of the basic lore, and this is an action adventure RPG that I've been working on for about 6 months. I'm not going to go too much into the story, but basically I had the idea to make an RPG because I was inspired after making Gym Seekers to make a new game, and this game was going to be an RPG. I knew that. I like games like The Legend of Zelda. That's kind of what type of games I wanted to make. So then I decided I will just make a really quick, simple character, a quick dungeon, maybe some like enemies to fight, and go from there. As I don't want to burn myself out, I just wanted to start with like something that I could work on and see what happens from there. And then I slowly evolved it into this game with more and more ideas, evolving things like story, coming up with ideas, things like dragons and demons and all this different stuff. Then later started to make its own unique game. So I started making a 3D model for the character. And for this character, I want to stick with low poly graphics because I thought I'm going to model most of these things so it doesn't look like an asset flip, and I have my own unique idea. Even if I didn't model my things, I would need to make my own models so that it fit the type of unique style I wanted to go for. So I went for low poly graphics, and I watched a tutorial on how to make low poly 3D models for this game. And I ended up making this character you see here, and I just added a dragon tattoo. I thought that'd be a pretty cool element, and I realized this dragon tattoo could lead to some nice story in the game. Maybe it should be based off dragons, so I started modeling a dragon blade you see here, and I actually used some reference art of a sword, and it looked pretty similar to this one actually, and I 3D modeled it, and then I used Mixamo, and then I put the character with the sword, some basic walking animations, put it on Unreal Engine, and tested it out, and I was pretty happy with it, but right now it's just the bare bones, it's pretty limited. So this is when I started to later work on the enemies because I knew he needed someone to fight. So the next thing I did was make a landscape for the player to be able to move around in and see how that felt. And I wanted to add some enemies so that you could actually test out the combat. I made a simple enemy. My brother made a design for the enemy, and then I 3D modeled it, and then I made some basic AI just for it to roam around and chase the player. Now this AI is pretty buggy. It was pretty janky. It wasn't that great. It was pretty simple combat, but I feel like I was at a good point where I could have this be my first milestone, and I released it on itch.io. By the way, you can check that out, link in the description. Now this point in development was probably the hardest, as I had a lot of bugs. I had crashing issues whenever you killed an enemy. I was trying to add multiplayer and had a bunch of problems with that, but I ended up solving these problems, and around here I started making the combat feel a lot more polished. I added camera shake, I added blood effects, I added this new ability, and right away it made the game feel way more professional. So this is definitely the best move I made out of my whole entire development so far, and I think this is one of the best parts of my game is the combat, even if it has a little bit of bugs, and it's not always gonna be perfect, but I'm pretty happy about it so far, and this was a big milestone for me. Now the next update on the game was a huge one. This one I made a bunch of more levels. I started working on a village level. I added a bunch of the core mechanics that I needed for this game before I was ready to start working on the story. I started adding a basic inventory system. Now I made this inventory fairly basic because inventory systems can be very complicated, so I wanted to make it as basic as possible because I knew I couldn't make a full-on Breath of the Wild level inventory system. And then I even started making a boss fight, and I started playing around with it. I wanted to feel like a heavy enemy, kind of like from Dark Souls, having a few heavy attacks. And so far the game was going pretty good. At this point I had all the core mechanics, but I'm not talking about the game. I could go on talking about all the mechanics for a long time, but I'm sure you're wondering, where is my game now? Well, you see, I have a plan for my game. The first step is to create an MVP. Now what is MVP? A minimal viable project. Now that is basically all the core mechanics, every single thing you need in the game at the very least for the game to be complete. Every single thing you need to ensure that you're not going to give up on the game. So by this part in the devlog, I had the MVP done. Now the next step is to create a draft of your demo. So create the absolute basic version of your demo from start to finish. And then after that, you polish it and make sure it's all ready for Steam. And then once you finish that, you make a draft for your final game. Every single thing that will be in the final game, that's at the very least finished. And then after that is the final draft of the final game. And right now, I finished the final draft of my demo. Now, I could go on showing a whole entire clip of the game, but it's about 25 minutes long and you don't want to watch the whole entire thing. So I'm just going to show you guys a really quick trailer of what I have so far. Hey guys, make sure to check out my game on itch.io. The final build is not in there, but you can download it for free. Also, my Steam page should be out now by the time this video is public. The Steam page is not public right now, but please feel free to wishlist. It's very hard to make games, and I'm just starting doing it in high school right now. So I would really appreciate if you guys wishlist the game. It's going to be an amazing game, and even if you don't want to buy the game, wishlisting the game will help me out, and you don't even have to buy the game. So it's a win-win situation. Anyways guys, I'll see you in the next video.